24/7, 48/7, 7-Eleven, European, television check.
The best tag team in the planet! The Lucha Brothers.
Okay, and welcome to Wrestling. And today we are going to talk about something serious. We're going to talk about wrestling and addiction. Everyone knows someone that's gone through it. Food, gambling, sex, drugs, and it takes a toll not only on the lives of those that are into it, but on the people around them. And if you look at wrestling, you can see that this is a business that really can create addiction. I mean, you think of it, you're in pain all the time. You know, what's going to help you feel better? You're in heavy competition. You're traveling constantly. You know, you maybe take some speed, help you finish that drive across the state. Maybe, you know, there's a lot of nutritional supplements involved in wrestling, and some of those, like in the case of William Regal, ended up being very addictive. And I kind of wanted to do this episode because this is something I can relate to. I've struggled with all sorts of drug addiction in my 20s. And my choice is, you know, I ended up homeless in jail and actually did a little time in prison. And luckily, I've gotten out of that. But I wanted to talk to someone who hasn't been to prison, and that is my co-host, Justin. Am I right in assuming that, Justin?
So far.
So far, yeah. Well, they haven't figured out the fraud
yeah.
stuff yet, but that's good. How are you, bro?
I'm doing all right. A little bit of a busy week with the shoot job, but I'm doing all right. How about you?
Your shoot job as opposed to your gimmick job?
Yes, I guess
I think you should start calling it your gimmick job. I'm doing well, man. Yep. I'm excited to talk some wrestling with you. We haven't been here for 2 weeks. We gave you guys a little break, but we watched a lot of stuff. So let's talk about some of the stuff we watched. Justin, what have you been watching in these last 2 weeks out of all the hundreds of hours of wrestling? You watching all those TJP shows?
Well, I think I definitely made Wrestle Kingdom a priority, and that was the one thing that I definitely, went on the way to watch, and still haven't checked what they call the third night out yet. And
the third night.
Outside of that, maybe some about half a Dynamite this week, and that's pretty much what I've done. Just been a little busier lately, so been a little harder to do.
Life comes and goes, man. You know, wrestling ain't the most serious thing in the world unless you're a wrestler yourself. So you talk about you watched Wrestle Kingdom. What did you think of? First of all, what did you think of the entire night 1 and 2, the entire 2 Wrestle Kingdom shows?
I thought they were great. I would like to see it to go back to one night, maybe next year. I know they called it a double gold dash, or they've been called. Didn't really see it as a double gold dash this year. There wasn't 2 golds, so I don't know why they were calling it a double gold dash. I do think I just would have, honestly, as tremendous and great as Ospreay and Will were. Ospreay
and Okada
and Okada was just so good, but I really think I could have done with just seeing Okada and Shingo, because I think Shingo deserved the spot for what he's been doing.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why they did all that, but I could have, I really felt like it could have been a one-night card.
You think there were too many tag matches?
Yeah, I definitely do. And of course, that's just the way they had to formulate it to do 2 nights this year. But I enjoyed it.
Do you think though that they could do 2 nights if they had more feuds and kind of got rid of some of the redundant tag matches? Do you think you'd be okay? Because I mean, the idea is, in the future, how would you feel if they did night 1 on a huge junior match?
I would have been fine with that. I would have been fine with them. They would have probably had to lengthen out Hiromu and El Desperado to have it main one night. but
Oh, yeah.
it would have had been a little long. It was a great match, but it would have been needed to be a little longer than 16 minutes. That's for sure. But they could have done it. They could have pulled it off if they did it right. But they put a lot of emphasis into that Shingo, Will, and Okada thing. So that's that took the prominence there. But I mean, yeah. The way that it was now, like any of those filler matches that were quote unquote previews for the next night, you wipe those out, and then you probably have one full card. I mean, you could have got cute with it and had Okada and Shingo be the first match of the night, and then had Will wait till the end of the night. I mean, we saw that with WrestleMania 30. I guess they could have done something like that, but to me, I thought it was unfair to make Okada and Shingo have to go through 2 matches and Ospreay only one. I thought it should have been Ospreay should have got the first shot, and then Shingo should have waited for the winner.
because Ospreay got stripped of the title, bro. He got the title ripped from his hands. So he's first in line. Exactly. So he should have had the first match. You just proved my point. They should have. Well, okay, but then who would the first winner challenge?
Well, since he deserved the title shot, so Shingo should have had to do both nights, I guess. To me, it would only have been one night, or they would have spread it out a little bit. But I guess the way that formula goes, obviously, the 2 guys deserve title shots if you're going to go off that logic, right? Okada won the G1.
True. Okay, that's true.
So there's some, and Jay White, quote unquote, stole the briefcase, right?
Oh boy,
and he got the last shot.
That was a clusterfuck, but yeah,
yeah. I mean, I thought that was a little better setup than this year. At least I understood, there's no rematch clause, or I guess there is, but just him holding the title. I just thought it was silly, but obviously once it happens in the ring, we're all excited and it's great. But I guess it's just being nitpicky. I just didn't think it was a double gold gash. It was just 2 nights, two title matches, and
I guess we disagree on that. I found this one to actually be fairly logical from my standpoint. I mean, I think it was a little better than one of the dudes being like, you know what? Now I want both belts, and now all of a sudden it's a 2-night tournament type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could have had Will and if you wanted to give Shingo, who's the champion, the proper respect, then he should have defended it with whoever came out with Will and Okada. That would have been the most fair and proper way to honor the champion, in my opinion.
Well, but I guess the argument is, like, why would Will face someone who's not the champion? Like, what?
Because he's the number 1 contender.
Yeah. Well, they could have done that, like, interim champion, like Okada and Ospreay battle for the interim, right? And then whoever wins that will go against Shingo. I guess you could have done it any sort of way. That would have made sense. You could have booked it with, when Okada wins the G1, Will comes out and says, "You may have the G1, but I'm the real number 1 contender." Wouldn't you just be getting the same matches just flipped? Like, all it would be was...
You would, but I'm just talking about, if you're going to make it 2 nights and make the most sense, that's how... Because there's, that's how it makes the most sense. Because I kind of think well, I guess he got a title shot and then defended it, but I think the G1 winner should get a title shot, should be the priority. He won the most, the tournament, that's the most strenuous tournament, blah, 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 blah. And he gets a title shot one night and then has to defend it the next night if he wins.
Yeah. Well...
that seems a little rough.
Well...
he won't defend it now until, February against Naito, so...
Oh, yeah. Jeez. Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean... I think it's pretty obvious that if you don't like the 2 nights, you might be sad, because I'm pretty sure they're going to do this forever now until the company falls apart.
It might. You know what though? Next year it might be better because they're going to have hopefully more talent that they can get over on that show. I mean, the 2-night format with a full roster and maybe some crossover, you could probably even do 3 nights of it. To be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, I just thought that this year it was a little thin, but I understand why they do it. They wanted to get two crowds and 2 paydays. I heard the second night, which is a shame. Didn't really get it too big of a crowd, like 6,000 in the dome. That's not
bad.
Good.
Even at low capacity, that's bad. So, yeah, I
don't know what the first night was. For some reason, I only heard the second night.
It was like 10,000.
No, don't get me wrong. Oh, really? I know last year they did about 20.
My God, man! And what they do the year before that, 40, and then
yeah, they did 40. They did 40 and like probably 25 the next night or something. Because this is third year in a row they've done 2 nights, right?
Yeah, well, major hesitancy.
But that's a different world.
Major hesitancy from the fans.
People are a lot more cautious there, and obviously for good reason. And I think a lot of it was, I guess, I don't know. I think all the big New Japan stars were still there, right? So all the, native talent were there. Native
talent, yes, but no Jay.
Yeah,
no
I don't
Jay
think
White.
anyone's like, any, Japanese person that's in the New Japan is like, oh no, John Moxley, I'm not going. I don't think that was really going on. And I guess all the matchups we saw at the end of the card were stuff we've seen earlier in the year, right? Early in 2021, all those matches took place already. So there wasn't really, as great as the matches were and how I'll watch those guys fight every day for forever, they weren't fresh matchups.
That's true.
I don't think anything was really fresh. Everything had been done within the past year.
Except Shibata versus Ren Narita.
Except for Shibata versus Ren Narita, unless you're talking about the LA Dojo or whatever. But we saw Despy and Hiromu numerous times over the last 12 months in some form or fashion. I want to say we've seen some kind of mix of Okada and Jeff Cobb. Naito and Cobb and Sonata. But no one was going to jump out of their seats for, Okada and Sonata. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there wasn't a lot of... That's the thing, though. We had all the native talent, but they've all kind of done... That's what kind of, in a way, is a negative thing about... I guess you could say about the G1, unless you do the block thing, but you don't have a lot of fresh matchups throughout the year because they've all kind of faced each other then,
I'm trying to see. It looks like Naito and Jeff Cobb have not actually wrestled each other in a few years, so that's kind of a more fresh matchup. They wrestled each other in 2019, but no, I do agree with you. I agree with you. I personally, I was, and I know you were entertained by the shows. I thought they were good in general, and it's not even worth talking about all the clap crowd stuff. We know it already. It's not worth getting into.
No, but, it's just, to me, I don't remember what the full crowd sounds like anymore, so it doesn't really matter now.
Well, it sounds like this. You just get the wrestler's name and then yell it out. That's what it sounds like,
Yeah,
okay.
Like 1 or 2 people at a time. Yeah. Yeah. So that's, yeah. I'll have to watch the Sakura.
Oh.
Yeah.
Watch Sakura Genesis again?
2017, yeah. I think I need to...
Can you really watch that?
Yeah, why? Oh, because of what? Yeah, well, now, even more now, right?
I just don't like seeing people... Like, I don't like watching people get injured, bro, which is... Like, I don't mind in football and stuff, but, like, in wrestling, it's hard.
I've seen a lot worse, and, people come out okay, right?
You've seen Sid Vicious, so you know how it works.
Yeah, Sid's big break. Oh, my God.
But you're not going to go and watch Silver King or
no.
You're not going to go watch Misawa.
No, that's
dark shit,
huh? That. Yeah, I mean, but I remember watching that match and not really thinking at the end that anything was career-threatening. I mean, obviously there was some crazy stuff.
No, those dudes find a way to finish the match, which is absolutely nuts. Like,
yeah,
I still like. They must have crazy adrenaline. Him and freaking Hiromu. Like, how?
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't really watch that and think, oh my God, somebody just ended there. No, it didn't come. I mean, I almost thought that with the Tanahashi Kenta match. which I actually ended up really enjoying. And it was, you could tell right away he was really hurt with his nose, broke his nose, right? I mean, I knew the broken nose. I didn't really see anything.
I thought he cut himself in the face, honestly. I didn't think he broke his nose, but come to find out, he
when you bleed,
fucked himself up.
Yeah, usually when you bleed like that, it doesn't look like... Yeah, like it's out of the nose, then it's definitely not a cut. And yeah, I totally knew he broke his nose right away.
Well, why don't we talk about that match for a second here? Because I actually thought it was quite a good match. I've seen a lot of people saying they didn't like it or thought it was average and stuff. And I remember thinking when I watched it, like, everyone's like, I hate watching Tanahashi use trash cans and all this stuff. But I actually felt like the weapons and stuff were only like a little bit part of the match. Yeah, the ending was all about it, but I mean, they actually did a lot of wrestling, dude. Yeah, I mean, did you notice that at all?
See it like where I think it hurt me. Well, I think Well, here's the thing: is like when I was thinking about that match, because I didn't really watch a lot of the build and the Road 2 shows that led up to it. But I would have liked, with Tanahashi being that just flat out, all-world babyface and stuff, it would have been nice to see him kind of struggle with the idea of using weapons. And the story would be that Kenta finally leads him to be using the chair and go into that kind of murder Tana mode or whatever. But apparently he was already saying, like, I'm going to kill this guy.
Yeah.
During the Road 2 shows, and he was doing it already. So it was almost like he already broke that shell. And he came out right away, and he was using weapons right away. He had, so...
Well, dude's already been in a ladder match years ago. I mean, like, I don't...
Yeah.
You think he...
And those unstable ladders they were using, jeez.
That was fucked up. That was hard to watch. I really thought that ending was going to get botched or something. It goes to Tanahashi, just even on a ladder and shit, he does this picture perfect high fly flow that doesn't even look, probably hurt, but I mean, he made it look so perfect. It's just like, dude, fucking Tanahashi.
It reminded me in all the good ways of like a 90s WWE hardcore title match.
Yeah.
Where they were just throwing every weapon in the ring, and it was until he bled it wasn't it was just a bunch of weapons, and the cookie sheet kind of stuff and all that. But I enjoyed it.
Did you pop at the briefcase? Because I definitely did.
Yes, that was funny. And I actually, the only downside to it, now that I kind of understood it, would have been nice to see a little bit of a struggle with Tanahashi. Should I really do this? And then he ends up doing it or whatever. And then I thought some of the spots, especially with the ladder, it took way too long to set up.
It took way too long. But you know what? I've heard you mention this quite a bit, and I could see him going with the whole Tanahashi struggling, but that it was never even like I don't really need that. Like, I like the idea of Tanahashi just being getting straight up violent. He's a wrestler, right? If he can do a hardcore match, it's like, I don't know if I want to make him into this I'm having moral issues with picking up this ladder. No, it's like I just want to win the match, and I kind of like that apart. I didn't need the he's having moral questions, But
it didn't have to be it would be just at one point for a split second, and then it happens. It didn't have to be a constant thing throughout the match.
Yeah, maybe if he pulled a ladder or he pulled a chair out, looks at it, throws it down, and then kicks him, something like that. I could see something like that.
Maybe he does that once or twice during the match, and then finally, maybe he, Kenta does something that just puts him over the edge, and then, it doesn't have to be this constant struggle of, with an angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other.
No, I understand. You're making it a little subtle. That would have been better.
I'm a good guy. I don't need these weapons to beat him, rather than I'm not going to use that because I don't believe we should use weapons. It's more of a, I can beat him without it kind of thing.
Yeah, I understand that. And one of my favorite matches of all time, which is Sami Zayn versus Neville, had that very story where it's should I hit him with the title? No, don't do it, Sami, don't do it. And I think that that can definitely work. So if it was done subtle, I would have enjoyed it. But tell me, like, will you ever be able to get it out of your head seeing that table with just this splash of blood across it? I mean, wasn't that not intense, man?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it, like the matches having the imagery, right?
Yeah.
That definitely had it, right?
Oh, definitely. It almost looked like a kanji mark, like just this red, and you know what was cool, and I mentioned this on Twitter, is that, like, the Japanese cameramen and the producers, unlike WWE, they don't even, like, try to shy away from it or anything like that, you know? They're just cameras right on it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they definitely don't. And, I hope Kenta's getting better. I hear he's got the dislocated hip and he's kind of stuck in Japan and can't travel right now. And he can't even go home and, hang out with his family right now. That sucks, so.
Because of injury issues?
Well, I think with the dislocated hip, he can't really get, like, on a plane and stuff.
Can you imagine a dislocate? That's a big dislocation, bro. A hip is big. Like, how would you fucking walk?
Joint. He's on crutches now, and I think a lot of it is also he was in the hospital for a while, too.
You know, he tweeted right after the match, he's like, I'm good. I'm fine.
Yeah, well,
you wonder if he was just so adrenalized. He's like, no, I'm good. Like, he just...
No, I think he was probably being sarcastic.
Probably. Imagine how he felt the next day. He probably woke up in the hospital. So
my wife was reading some of the tweets recently. He's talking about how he's in love with his crutches because they're the only thing that can keep him stable or something. He's never met anything that can keep him stable or something like that.
Do you have your wife read Japanese tweets for you?
Sometimes.
I don't blame you for that at all. It's much better than the translate tweet button, because that button will give you some weird fucking things, like this total unorganized, translation.
Just, the wrong nouns and verbs for sure.
Yeah. The Kenta tweet said, metal. I'm fine. And, like metal as in like courage, you know what I mean? But it's just not a word we would really use in English, like metal.
Right. It's because it's more of a symbol that it's just telling you what the symbol means, not what the word means. That is there, yeah.
Well, it was the kanji, but I read it with the kanji and like but just that translation of metal isn't just not, in English, like it's probably a weirder translation, metal. It probably has a lot more, subtlety than just the word metal. A lot of more associations and stuff. But that was cool. That was on night 2, of course. Now, you're talking about El Desperado. I was a little disappointed in this match, actually, especially hearing Hiromu talk about, I want to be in the main event. I thought they were going to go out and have this real crazy banger. And it ended up being a good match, but that wasn't quite what I thought. What did you think? Because other people loved it.
I thought it was really good. I mean, I would have liked... I know maybe they got a little too... the going to the well with Hiromu winning, so I guess you can give them... I can understand why they went the other way with it, and it really gave them a chance to, get another guy in that division kind of made.
They've really built Desperado up now to where, he's really this top guy in the division and looks credible.
Yeah, and I guess they kind of need that in the long run. It's just what do you do with Hiromu now? Does he go for the junior tags, or do you build him back up again, or is he going to go on this kind of 2-year Okada thing?
Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, that's a whole other discussion to have. I'd love to see a really big New Japan Cup. There should be some guys that can fly in, hopefully, by then, but who knows?
Well, I know they're going to have it in huge arenas. Moving on to that real quick, what did you think? Because, did you see that New Japan announced, this arena, then this dome, and then this dome? And it's like, oh, God, they really must need to be recoup money. I mean, I would love if they could really sell out these places. Obviously an impossibility right now, but kind of fascinating with their upcoming schedule, right?
Well, I clearly think they booked them 6-8 months ago. So they're just having to fulfill their commitments. So they're obviously, the way things are going now, I think it's more of just people being hesitant to go, because it just seems to me that if people wanted to go, they could have filled that building up a lot more. It's just people there are more, cautious and stuff like that. So
it's really time to start the cheering again, man. I am one who has taken COVID very seriously. I am triple vaccinated, but in America we have the cheering, and it has not. Although we are in another outbreak right now, probably one of the worst ones, but Omicron not being the most. Anyways, this cheering has not caused sports events. And someone tell me if I'm wrong, and write in, tweet me. This cheering has not caused lots of sports events to just be these massive super spreader events, and it's time to go back.
Yeah, not that we know of, but I mean, talking Japan into that is a whole other.
It's impossible, right? Because they are so, they want the safety.
In these sporting events here, they're not even all wearing masks. So
yeah.
I mean,
but I mean, it's just I'm tired of even talking about it. Not with you and stuff, but anyways, just with everyone. Well, I just mean in general, clap crowds.
Definitely. Well, the bottom line is I think that these venues, they booked months ahead of time, and it's not like you can just back out of them now. And I do think Japan is in a little bit better situation than we are. So maybe they're hoping it'll get better in a few months out there, and they can. I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
I mean, don't forget that not only is the New Japan hurting for money, but those venues are hurting for money as well. So I'm pretty sure they're giving them a really good deal.
That's totally true, man, because look, these places aren't like Madison Square Garden where every night it's booked. These places have baseball, and what else, man? They can't do Disney on Ice. Maybe a big concert. Yeah, but the sumo, they have the sumo arenas. They don't put those in the baseball arenas,
Right, and that's true too. So they don't have anything right now. So I think a lot of those arenas are probably giving New Japan a really good deal. And
Ryzen is really the only other
making
thing.
some money off of getting 5,000 or 6,000. Yeah, so it's not like they're renting it out to anyone else. So I think they're getting, Tokyo Dome's probably like, we'll give you 2 for 1 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, very good point. I want to say this, Justin, and not to get too in the weeds on the COVID thing, but listen to lots of science podcasts, and I don't want to sound like Joe Rogan because I'm not that way, but, Omicron, is considered to be less dangerous than the previous variants, and, this is what a virus would, I guess, want to do by mutating, because if a virus kills off its hosts, then the virus itself won't be able to spread. So the virus wants to not kill its host and be extremely spreadable. So, it's just doing what a virus does. And if we're going to live a lifetime of this, hopefully it will become less dangerous. So.
Well, I mean, you're hoping that its last shot is it spreads itself out weaker, but I don't know. I just ask me again in a month or two. Yeah,
ask me again in 5 years, right?
Right.
So another thing about night 2, and I know we're all over the place, guys, here, but that's okay because
bear with us.
Yeah, because we're sure that your mind jumps all over the place just as much as ours. What'd you think about the Stardom match?
I thought it was one of the best matches of the 2 nights.
It
was great.
I agree. Anyone stick out to you?
Starlight Kid's pretty awesome.
You've become a fan, huh?
Yeah, just the mask and hearing that, the whole backstory.
Yeah.
How she's a heel now, and she used to be like this Bayley-like baby face. She got traded to another, faction. And then when it came time to go back to her old faction, she didn't want to, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a cool story, and you compare it to Bayley, who people like and stuff, but this transformation to the heel has been awesome for Starlight Kid. She just seems totally evil now, but what was really cool about this match, man, is that Tom Nakano and Saya Kamitani, those two wrestled each other, and Mayu Iwatani and Starlight Kid also were feuding. And so instead of going with the tag team partners that couldn't be friends, They just said fuck it and went and had a crazy match.
Yeah, and it's a chance for them to showcase themselves to just pretty much everyone, and it seems like they sent four of their most popular ones, right?
Yeah, definitely. Kamitani and Tom Nakano. Julia wasn't there, and some other people, but these are four wrestlers that are in programs with each other, and so I don't know if I would call Starlight Kid one of their most popular, but she's definitely building. So, but definitely Nakano and Kamitani, and they love ending their match with her Phoenix Splash, which is like very good Phoenix Splash from her.
Yeah, it was a great finish, and you could definitely tell that they put a lot of effort and took it very seriously that they were getting the shot in the middle of the card, or second match, right? So, they were in a prominent spot. They weren't, when everyone was walking in, so, and they seemed to really take advantage of that.
So, if there's anything we haven't talked about on the show, guys, it's probably because it wasn't that good, but, there was good stuff. The junior tag match was cool. The main events were both very good. Will Ospreay is just like hasn't lost a step, I guess. Like, what the hell, man?
No, I mean, it was like so just that match with Okada was just so flawless. Well, actually, both matches, and I texted you about it too, and maybe we forgot. If you haven't forgotten, we're going to remind you that Okada is the best wrestler in the world. Once you get in the middle of that ring, and just that he's just incredible.
Did all his crazy spots that he's kind of not done in a long time, doing the dive over the guardrail, which I thought that they didn't do because of COVID, and they might not have for a while, but did that spot and then got paid for it on the second night with the kick.
Yeah, and honestly, Okada he's like a Tiger Woods type of guy where he's willing to take a few steps back to go forward later on and improve his game. Like he'll just totally change, like Tiger Woods would totally, change up his swing because he didn't like one thing about it, even though he was, winning a bunch of tournaments, but then he would not do so good for a year and then start dominating again because he made a little tweak, and he was willing to put in the time. I guess that's what you could say with what he did for the last couple of years, and the money clip thing and all that.
And both dealing with back issues as well.
Yeah, he got enough time off to get healthy, it seemed like. And I mean, honestly, I really think that, New Japan feels like they're going to open up things this year. Or they did at the time, or they did in the last few months.
Yeah,
they thought this year,
I heard April,
2022.
but who knows where that came from.
No, I'm just saying, like, when they were talking about this in the fall, they were thinking that 2022 was going to be when they were going to really have the chance to open things up. I mean, rewind yourself back to August, when they did the show out here. I think they really thought by next year, and there still could be, but who knows. And the whole plan is who better to have with your belt and representing the company as the champion than Okada.
Yeah,
I mean, that's who you want. That's who you want to have the thing. When you're going out in the world,
and man, I'll tell you, dude. I get very emotional about wrestling, but rarely do I actually tear up and stuff. But that Okada promo after he won the title, man, he started crying, man. And, he started crying when he said, I want to hear you guys cheering again. Oh, man, that room started getting dusty as hell in there. I started getting sweaty in the eyes and everything. So,
well, hopefully, the next, I don't know how they're going to do it, but hopefully sooner than later.
And hopefully sooner than later. And you haven't seen the Noah show? You were saying Noah versus New Japan?
I'm waiting it out till I'll probably check some out tomorrow. But I'm looking forward to seeing it, just seeing what the Noah guys are all about and that kind of thing. We'll see how that goes.
You gotta Noah's got their English commentators, right? They got Mark Pickering and this other guy. I forget his name, but I talked to him on Twitter recently, actually. I feel bad because I made fun of him and then I talked to him on Twitter. But you got to hear this other announcer because he's like their version of Chris Charlton, but he really doesn't have an announcer voice at all, man.
Are they all Japan based?
Yeah, Mark Pickering and Mark Pickering is the guy I'm talking about. I'm sorry. So, Mark Pickering.
Does he live in Japan?
Yeah.
Huh.
He's like the Noah dude. He's the Chris Charlton Noah guy. You know what I mean? Like, he knows the full history. And he mentioned on the one of the Noah shows that, what did he say? He said, I know that you can tell that Go Shizuki's getting better once he started chopping walls for practice. So I go on Twitter and I said, well, we know Go Shizuki doesn't really chop walls, but that's cool that he said that. And he wrote me back saying, no, no, he really does chop walls, dude. Like, I'm not fucking with you. Like, he's like, the Noah people are just different that way.
Right. Well, that's okay.
Like, why would you chop a wall?
I'll check him out. But do you get to who's doing the announcing for this show though?
Oh, it was the two guys Kevin Kelly and Chris Charlton.
Really? So there's no alternate feed with the Noah guys?
Nope.
Huh. Poor guys.
Yeah. Now, Japanese was a little crazy, bro. They had, like, it was too much. It was, like, 7 dudes commentating, really. It's, like, all the Noah guys, all the freaking Togi Makabe, Masahiro Chono, fucking Milano, Shinpei, who else was Kento Kobashi, like, that was a little too much. So, but
wow.
Yeah. The sound on night 3 was actually really good. They did figure that out. They got the sound working great. So, I definitely can't wait to talk about that with you because I think there's going to be a few Noah guys where you're like, wow, that guy was awesome, especially in the last 2 matches. You're hoping that they go for more with this feud. So,
do you think it's going to lead to something in this year, or was this a one-time thing?
I think it's going to lead to something this year because I've heard a lot of people say, like, if this doesn't lead to anything, well, you can't call it a waste because it made money. It's still, like, there's so much more money on the table to be had here. There's a couple entrants in the New Japan Cup or the G1, and definitely Okada versus Kiyomiya is, like, you definitely are going to want to watch that. Like, you're like, okay, Kiyomiya has something here. Like, you just are left thinking, like, yeah. I gotta watch this.
Because I think they're... Well, yeah, I definitely think that the New Japan Cup and the Best of the Super Juniors, too, are going to need to be bigger this year. Especially with the New Japan Cup. I mean, the Best of the Super Juniors, they can't go out there with one block again. Especially since if they're going to do a Best of the Super Juniors in the early summer or spring, they can't run out there with 10 guys again, especially since it just happened 3 months ago. They're going to have to do something bigger. Yep.
I agree. Well, dude, I think they're going to take it real seriously. 50th anniversary, right? So, the New Japan Cup is going to take... It looks huge, bro. It's taking place over, 16 nights of New Japan Cup, man.
That makes me feel like they're going to have 32 guys, right?
And the finals are going to be in Osaka-jo Hall. 2 nights in Osaka-jo Hall. So that seems like a pretty big deal. Let's hope that it's what you said, and it's not one match a night with just tons of filler. Yeah, because we don't need any more of that.
Or preview matches. I mean, I always liked the way the G1 was struck, but even... honestly, the way the G1 cards were, so when I went to that one night of the G1, I kind of did enjoy having the filler matches because I knew some of those guys I wasn't going to get to see that night.
They're good in the G1.
Yeah, I think they're good in the G1, so it was cool that I got to see Moxley even though it wasn't his block, and it was cool that I got to see Naito even though it wasn't, his block, but, if you're going to be... I guess you can always fast forward, so keep doing it.
Well, Justin, though, there is something to be said about those great Best of the Super Juniors nights when it's 8 singles matches in one night. I'm not going to lie, that is pretty cool. I do enjoy that too. But the only thing that sucks about that is like, like one match is going to be 2 minutes long. It's like they have to figure out a way to time it correctly. So that kind of sucks too. So anything else on the New Japan rundown that you wanted to talk about, or did we get it out of the way?
I think we got enough out of the way. I'm sure we missed some, but honestly, we're almost 2 weeks removed from watching it, so I feel like I might have missed something. But hey, I'll be okay if you are. A lot of other good shows that did a lot of other breakdowns that you can check out too. That did a way better job than we did, since we're a little not as fresh on it as they were.
Not as fresh, and we haven't watched. And I'm gonna have to start putting timestamps into these episodes just in case people don't want to hear us talk about New Japan. So, guys, I'll put timestamps. Right. They'll be in this episode. Not sure how, but I'll figure it out. So you say you've seen a little bit of AEW recently, not a ton.
Yeah.
You didn't see Jade Cargo win? Because I heard that was an absolutely bad match.
An absolutely what match?
Bad match.
Like not good?
Not good. What'd you think?
I thought it was okay.
I haven't seen it at all. Someone said it was the worst title match in AEW history.
Maybe I wasn't paying full attention, but
But you enjoy it? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I wasn't like, wasn't, the greatest thing ever, but it wasn't what I would never occur to me to label it as bad. Sometimes
you hear pundits say, "Oh, he's so green." I'm like, I can't tell. He looked fine to me. So, it's fine that way. It just, sometimes I think wrestling is not really something, maybe unless you're talking about the top New Japan matches, it's not meant to be so, like, looked at every little aspect of the match. I mean, we do that because it's fun and we're hardcore, but 95% of people just watch it and have fun,
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, Jade Cargill is a good person for them to try and showcase on national television and TBS and stuff like that. She's big, impressive, got a really good look to her. Like, I didn't see a problem with that at all, and she kind of came out of nowhere in a way. Why not? Everyone I think was thinking that Ruby Soho was going to win that, so why not go the other way with that?
So, I don't mean to put any of us in hot water here, but what did you think about Big Swole's comments about AEW?
I thought she kind of was pretty, like, she handled her words well when I heard it. I didn't really think it was... I thought Tony reacted a little weird to it.
Kind of just tweeting this thing, almost not really directing to her, just telling everybody like, "Hey, I'm a person of color."
I thought she offered maybe some friendly, constructive criticism to him, but he took it as, "Nope, you sucked. Bye. I have black friends." That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, I could kind of see that, and especially posting it on Twitter. It's like, oh, I need to publicly let everyone know I feel this way. He could have given her a call. That's one of those...
Exactly. Or, just, talk to another talent there and say, do I make you feel that way? Or whatever. Or, I want to make sure we get this corrected. Or, he could have reached out to her and said, "Hey, I'm really sorry you feel that way. Can we talk a little bit?"
I think nowadays... Though I'll say this, Justin, we are in society right now. Race is probably is like a bigger deal. Racism and race is one of a bigger deal than it has been in a while, and probably for the better. But I mean, the idea of being called out as being having any kind of racial prejudice in today's climate is just, it could be like career death. So maybe he got really upset by that he might have been accused of something like that. And because it's possible that he feels like he's just is not that way at all, and it's got upset. If someone went on a public forum and accused you of racism or picking certain wrestlers because of their race, I mean, would you not be upset by that?
Well, I mean, I that's the thing. You're right. Like It's just the way you go about things. Like, it just all could have been solved if he didn't tweet that. He could have completely ignored it and nothing would have happened. You know what I mean?
Well, it definitely made a dark Twitter a very dark place for a little while. Reading those
I think
comments.
a lot of it was he didn't take it down, and still hasn't. But and honestly, since Big Swole isn't that huge of a name or that recognized, that's probably why it's just kind of gonna go away.
Yeah. Well,
and I thought she like when I first heard it, I was like, oh man, she must have just said something outrageous. But then I listened to it and I didn't think it was really. It was more of like, hey, I enjoyed it there, but like there's some things needed to work on with this and that. And I didn't really think it was too, harsh. I don't know. Or I thought she was very what's the word I'm looking for? She handled it very professionally, I thought.
Yeah. Well, of course,
and
Leo Rush.
I don't think he did.
Leo Rush jumped in there as well, and although
apparently he got a talking to about it. It seemed like because later on he's I just want to say I never had any problems.
Yeah. Well, I will say this: we don't know what goes on backstage, but I've heard you hear from everyone how good it is to work there and how good it is backstage from people of all different backgrounds. So,
but what? Not everyone is going to be happy even with that.
It's impossible. It's impossible, man. And not everyone's... It was only a matter of time before an AEW talent come out and said, they weren't happy. And Swole said specifically she's not good at improvising. She needs written material. And in AEW, dude, you have to be able to improvise. You have to. You have to be able to write your own material,
Yeah, I don't think they have a lot of writers, quote unquote, that are going to hand you a piece of paper.
Zero. They have no writers. Yeah. They just have wrestlers and Tony Khan.
Right. I mean, maybe they'll help you with some bullet points, but I don't think there's really someone that's going to do that for you. And I mean, hey, maybe we'll do this next week or next time. But when is the Royal Rumble?
The very end of January. Very beginning of February, is that?
Very end of January.
January 29.
Oh.
And we already talked about who we thought would win, and Brock ain't going to be in it anymore, so nope. Big E maybe?
Well, first of all, do they even have enough people to fill both of them?
Yes, because they're going outside of the company to get people.
Right. Well, I heard Mickie James is coming in.
Hang on. Impact Women's Champion, Knockouts Champion, Mickie James.
January 29th. So we can do a further breakdown of who we think the secret people are going to be, but that's on the next
Bro, there ain't going to be secret people. Edition. That's one of the worst parts. Why did they even announce the fucking Royal Rumble people? Dude, announce 5 people. Let it all be a surprise. Do you know how much I hate knowing 25 out of the 30 contestants in the Royal Rumble?
Or the fact that they can just declare themselves for it?
Yeah, what the fuck, dude? Like Johnny Knoxville.
There you go. See? Now you spoiled it for me.
You think Johnny Knoxville is going to take a good bump?
He's taken plenty. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't.
Bro, he's been slapped just as much as a lot of wrestlers and taken hard
I was just
slaps.
gonna say I think he's put his body through as much pain as those guys have.
Jack, when I have friends that I've showed wrestling to, and one of my friends watched wrestling, and he goes, "Oh, it's like Jackass," and I go, "What do you mean?" He's like they slap the shit out of each other and they just take it. And I was like, yeah, I could kind of see that.
No, I mean, he's definitely, I don't know if I would say a professionally trained, but he's definitely, a stunt guy.
He's definitely a stunt guy, man. And how old is he now? He's older than you for sure. Not saying you're that old, but I mean, at 40, you don't want to be taking bumps.
He's got to be on the near side of 50, no?
He's got to be, bro.
Here, I'll look it up. It's worth looking up.
He's 50, bro.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
I mean, he doesn't even have to wear the old grandpa makeup anymore.
Oh, that would be great if he came out as grandpa and shit his pants in the ring. Wouldn't that be cool? And he had like the fart pack in his ass, so when he like farts, it just sprays out all over the ring. Do you think that'd be funny?
Yes,
it'd be better than Toru Yano, that's for sure.
Oh no, we need to see Toru Yano and Johnny Knoxville in the New Japan Cup.
In a drinking match, an alcohol match.
Oh yeah, and you can have like Party Boy there and all that stuff.
Oh shit, dude! Who's probably 50 years old as well. Do a little Ryan Dunn 10-bell salute before the thing starts. Yeah, I think we got something going now, bro. It sounds like a great idea. And well, that sounds good about everything. We will definitely talk about the Royal Rumble soon. Let's use this as a little segue here. You think about thinking about Jackass. You know Steve-O, remember him?
Oh yeah.
You know, dude has his life together nowadays. Like, you know that?
I know. I other than doing some kind of stunt out on that billboard a couple years ago, about a mile or two from where we
I was going to
live,
say, was it near your house?
It was, like, right down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems to have it together more than most of that old crew.
Well, and he went through a lot of stuff. And
yeah, definitely.
Very similar to some of the people we'll be talking about today. So, obviously, addiction. I already did my whole intro about it here. Pretty all-encompassing with wrestling, would you say? Very part of the culture of wrestling, in a way.
Well, listen, when you do as much travel and have to put your body through the same strenuous thing night in, night out, you need something to get you going for the next day to the next town.
And you're also around other guys constantly that are going through the same thing, And
you need a distraction, and sometimes you need a supplement or something that can artificially get you going for the next night, or just to deal with the pain when you get back.
To deal with the pain, yeah, I can only imagine. You hear people talking about pain in wrestling. It's one of the biggest things. Probably as a non-wrestler, I imagine that the pain of wrestling is one of the things that non-wrestlers don't understand unless you do deal with chronic pain. But I mean, I had arm issues for a little while, and I know that chronic pain can just totally fuck with your whole sense of the world. It'll make you question, like, can I live this way and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, night after night, yeah, man, eventually something's got to give.
What happens when the average person gets hurt or, is sick? They stay home, they take some medicine, they sleep all day.
Or if you slip and
they get a cast.
They get a. If one of us, if you
heal.
or I slipped and fell on our ass, and like it'd probably hurt for a few days. We'd have trouble walking.
Yeah, but what if we had to go do that same thing the next day?
Multiple days a week.
Right. You don't even have the chance to recover from the first time, and you're doing it for the fourth time. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's like, the whole key to not having a hangover is just to stay drunk the whole time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how some people deal with it. It just keeps them going. I mean, if you had a rough match where maybe you think you might have broke something, and this is in the 1980s on the road, you didn't say, "Oh, hey, promoter, I'm going to take the next 3 weeks off just to let my set." No, someone's going to take your spot, and you're not going to get any money. So you popped some pills. You did what you had to do. Not only did you do that, but you drove 5 hours to the next town
with the boys too, and you're then they're going to party before the night before the show too.
Or they're they say, "Hey man, you're hurting. Take these." I mean, you just know all your goal is to do is to keep going.
Well,
and
especially in the 80s and early 90s, before what we would call the opioid crisis or the opioid epidemic or whatnot. I mean, I imagine that now we know that opioids are causing so many overdoses, especially fentanyl, and it's become a real public health crisis. But in the 80s or 90s, I think that it was just like, oh, you're in pain, just here's a prescription, here's 60 of these, just take these.
Well, and just, you can go in other sports with baseball in the 70s and 80s, the guys popping the greenies.
Amphetamines, yeah.
Just to, play every day in a 162 game schedule where you get, at the most 3 days off a month. No. I know we're talking baseball.
No, but it's similar. It's totally similar.
It's a grind.
And something that we didn't mention too is the incredible competitive aspect of professional sports, and wrestling being one of the most competitive industries. In baseball,
and it's not something in baseball. If you get hurt, someone on the other, you have a guaranteed contract, and your backup's just going to play until you heal up. There is no backup. It's not like somebody, we're a team, so let me take your spot for a little while and you get better. It's like, no, that person is not your teammate. You're giving somebody else a chance.
Even if he works with you, dude, he's not your teammate. Really,
all those situations like that do happen in sports where, a guy will get hurt and someone will play better than them and they don't have their job. Exactly. But that person is still getting a paycheck that's the same as it was, you're still a guaranteed contract there. So,
imagine if everyone else in the league could get your spot. You know what I mean? Like every other.
Right.
And basically also, if you lost your spot and someone did better than you, they'll just keep him and then get rid of you.
But, I think what we've done a good job is establishing that the schedule, the grind, and the culture of pro wrestling has laid the groundwork for people. And we're not even talking about the aesthetic aspects and why people would do stuff like use steroids or whatever. But that's, kind of a different thing in addiction, I guess. But this groundwork we're laying out, we're just basically saying that the way that this job is structured, that you can understand why someone might reach for a bottle or a can or a glass or
absolutely,
to just keep themselves from, not being able to do it.
And you know what, Justin, as you see this through the history of the drug use, specifically the most info I have is kind of on the late 80s up till today. And what you see is the pattern that most of these guys are addicted to alcohol and pain pills for the most part. There's cocaine. There's definitely cocaine, especially in the 80s going into the 90s. But pain pills and alcohol are the recurring theme. So the things that we're talking about, they show with the history. They show with the drug use, where this keeps popping up over and over. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I can't hear you if you're talking, by the way. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. Just making sure. I thought I lost you in the ether, man. So, now, I want to say before we talk about names and stuff is that I'm going to talk for you here, Justin, and you can tell me to correct you or if you want to correct me or not. But, we both probably, we want anyone that has gone through this or is going through it to always improve and get better. We want Jon Moxley to get out of this on the bright side. And when we talk about these names and stuff, this is an examples of things that have happened. These are, the historical things that have happened. But in no way are we... Nothing about this is funny or are we any way using an example out of these names or anything. These I guess it is an example, but, a lot of situations seem ridiculous, but we do take them very seriously.
No, it's we are exhibiting what they call empathy.
Yeah.
And saying hey, look how, understanding why this is being, of course we're not condoning it or anything. We're just saying the way that this industry is designed, it has some of its, employees that would imbibe in these things just to deal with the day-to-day because of how demanding and the pressure of, for them to remain relevant, they need to do those things.
When I bring up specific...
They feel like it, yeah.
And
don't get me wrong, there's probably tons of guys who did these grinding schedules and did deal with injuries and didn't do any of this stuff.
Probably most, right? Probably most. I would guess.
Just say that there was some. There was definitely a handful of guys that
your Triple H, Kenny Omega.
unscathed. Yeah. Right. I mean,
Vince
for
McMahon.
all we know.
Well, I mean, honestly,
We're not just to be clear, I don't really think we're covering stuff like performing enhancing drugs, at least in this.
No, I'm
segment
not.
of
We're
it.
not. We're not talking about that on purpose because that's honestly a totally different episode.
Yeah.
Performance enhancing drugs do not cause the type of physical addiction that alcohol and opiates and benzos do, and so no, we'll talk about that some other time.
We're talking about the guy that suffers a high ankle sprain right at the beginning of a Monday through Sunday, 2 shows a day schedule, that doesn't have the luxury of, going to urgent care and getting an x-ray and elevating it for a few days with some ice.
Exactly.
I'm going to pop a couple pills, maybe get a shot so I can deal with this the next day and get paid so I can, feed the family.
Exactly. We're talking about the guy who has to drive from Tallahassee to Jacksonville in the middle of the night, just performed
with his driving foot that he just sprained.
With his foot that he just sprained, just performed and is passing out and has to take some speed just to help himself get from point A to point B. Because
and then when he gets to the hotel room, he's a little wound up, and he's in pain. So
few drinks.
Takes a Vicodin and a beer and goes to bed.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a lot of times how this stuff starts. This is coming from, again, someone who's gone through addiction. It starts small like that, and I'm sure with all these wrestlers, it does start that way. It's like, dude, you don't feel good? Take this. But eventually, especially like you said, with the pain, it gets out of control.
I think a lot of times these things start with responsible use and go overboard.
So
I remember I had a hernia surgery 3 or 4 years ago.
Ooh, you did? Why didn't you tell me?
You weren't in the contact list yet.
Oh,
but,
okay.
It was 3 or 4 years ago. I had a hernia surgery, and I'll tell you, man, that obviously I feel much better now than I did when I had a hernia, and it's worth it. But those first couple days after you have it is, whew.
It was terrible.
You ever in so much pain you just laugh? Like, I can't believe this is what I'm feeling right now.
I had a colonitis once, and I was bleeding inside my colon and I guess ass area, and for 4 days I lived with the pain to the point where the pain was starting to become this entity,
Right.
I was trying to separate the pain from my consciousness, and it's just, it fucks with your head, it fucks with your whole being.
Yeah, so I mean, going back to this, you get home from the surgery, it's an outpatient procedure, and you feel fine. You're like, okay, I'm a little stiff, and then the next day it hits you, and they give you this little bottle of Percocets, right? And you're thinking to yourself all right, I don't really want. I know what the deal with these things are. But the next day, when just to shift in your bed or God forbid, get out of your bed, it's a whole routine of just dealing with intense pain. You go for the bottle and you take one, and the pain is still there, but it's just much more manageable.
You can deal with it.
You feel good. You're watching some movies on the iPad, and next thing you know, you're out of them, and you call the doctor saying, "Hey, I need some more to get through the rest of the recovery here." And they say no, take Advil. But I did deal with the side effect of the pills that made me be able to move on, which is constipation. That really sucked.
Oh yeah, with the opioids for sure.
Yeah, so
3-4 days
especially
without
when you have hernia surgery down there, and you're trying to do that, and you feel like you're just gonna tear apart. I remember texting a friend that had the surgery too, and I texted him, "Man, is this happening?" He's like, "Yes." And when you were able to do it, it's the greatest thing ever. And that's what happened.
Oh,
but
God.
After a week, I was up and driving again. I took a week off of work for it, but you know what? That could have gone the complete wrong way with me, and I could have got hooked on those things. And maybe my doctor would have said, "If you need some more, go get them." And the next thing you know it, I'm still struggling with it.
In the early 90s, that's probably what would have happened with you, man.
Yeah, it could happen to anybody. and I could have found someone that would have sold them to me for $5 a pill or whatever. Like, I don't know.
That's what I bought them for.
It can happen to anyone, and I think a lot of times it starts with prescribed responsible use, and then it goes beyond that, and it can happen to anybody. So
also, we obviously don't know all the wrestlers' history, but genetics clearly play a role in addiction. A lot of these guys,
sure.
Who knows what their family history is. The drinking is very similar in the sense that you do it first because it's socially acceptable, unlike, some other stuff like shooting up heroin, which you don't really do out in the open. You drink, you're doing it with your friends, and then all of a sudden you're not with your friends, and you're like, well, I'll just have a few. And, fast forward a few years, and, you might be drinking every day. And addiction in general is a slow process. You know what I mean? It's gradual, generally. It's progressive.
Right. Like I said, it starts, sometimes responsible and prescribed by a, doctor. And sometimes on the other end of the spectrum, it starts as something to loosen you up at a party, or just something you do casually
because your friends are doing it.
Yeah, innocently, but then it goes to it goes to a whole other level when you need to do it to function. It becomes addiction, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of the if you can't get out of bed with doing without drinking a fifth of Jack Daniels, or when you can't get up the next morning without taking 3 Vicodin, that's when you have the problem, when you can't function without it.
And it's they generally say that you can really classify something as like a harmful addiction if you can't function without it, and if it's causing issues in your life, losing jobs, and a lot of these wrestlers, relationships definitely. I'll tell you this, for me, man, I went through an alcoholic phase, and I remember I actually spent a few years heavily drinking. I ballooned up to over 300 pounds, and I was actually put on oxygen. I was drinking so heavily. They sent me to the ER. I went to go get oral surgery, and they sent me to the ER because they said my oxygen levels were so low. And I still remember the first time I really started doing it was I woke up in the morning. I felt terrible, and I remember, didn't someone tell me, like, if you drink while you have and I think you made a joke about that, if you drink while you have a hangover, then it'll stop the hangover. That's, like, I guess some stupid heuristic.
Well, just saying that's the key to it is never to not be drunk, right? Like, that's how you cure the hangover.
Yeah, and that's when I knew, man. I knew there was an issue because I was drinking at 8 a.m., It's like, my God, man. So it's progressive for sure. But earlier on I was saying we're going to bring up some individual names and stuff, and I can just say that Justin and I have nothing but hope for people that are going through this or have gone through this.
This is about having empathy and understanding where it comes from, and just acknowledging that a lot of these guys and gals that we enjoy going out there and performing are dealing with a lot, and before you make fun of them on Twitter or whatever, that kind of thing, realizing that what they're doing, they could be going through some other stuff, and to just be a little more understanding of that, and not to judge someone that's caught with such and such, or they just can't stop doing such and such. Understand that, like, it's a problem that they need to that they can't necessarily just turn off,
Justin, nobody wakes up in the morning randomly and says, today I'm going to become an addict. You know what I mean? I'm going to lose my job today and become an addict. I don't think that's like a chosen life necessarily. At least not initially, I guess. I don't know. Initially, yeah. It definitely is. And I am of the school that believes, yes, while drinking or using is a choice, that choice becomes incredibly hard to make eventually. It's like asking you if you want to drink water when you're thirsty. Do you really have a choice?
But you probably made the toughest choice at some point, and a lot of guys do it too, is to ask and get help. That's probably the toughest choice you'll ever make.
So, jump right in here. We'll start talking about some names here. Kaylie Ray. Is it Kaylie Ray? Was that the one that was in AEW?
Yes, and I think was she in ROH at the end or somewhere, NWA or something, or
I think she was in Impact
now?
For a little bit.
Impact maybe now.
She really jumped around.
Yeah, and I think I didn't know she was dealing with addiction necessarily. I knew that she was maybe dealing with some mental health issues when she just kind of walked away from AEW, right? Yeah.
And maybe she wasn't dealing with addiction back then. But
I don't know.
She just made a post that said 8 months sober.
Okay. Great.
So how awesome is that? Really cool.
Yeah.
We don't know the history, and it doesn't even really matter, to be honest. What matters is that she is finding a way to get help and to improve her life.
Or just that the fact that she is 8 months sober makes her a better person in her mind. So that's all that matters.
Yeah. Well, and I definitely respect her for that. So that was just kind of a random side note. But let's start here talking about someone, Shawn Waltman. Otherwise known as what?
X-Pac, 6, 1, 2, 3 Kid.
Yes. The Bronco
maybe
Buster.
Somebody that kind of annoyed me in the Attitude Era, but then I didn't really appreciate just how damn good of a wrestler he is. And honestly, probably in the top 10 best matches in Monday Night Raw history. In the match he had with Bret Hart.
Really?
Yeah. There was probably from
Was he 1, 2, 3 Kid?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3 Kid Bret Hart. Great match.
He looks like a kid for real, huh? Like
he did look like a kid.
You think about WWE pushing young talent and stuff, and it's like, well, they tried to go do something with him back then.
Yeah, and think about a guy like that. Obviously, was getting tossed around like crazy because of the fact that he was, almost always exclusively the smallest guy in the ring. Mm-hmm. Of course, you could see him, having to deal with that in a certain way.
So he said that he talked about the history of his one. Shawn Waltman, someone who has had issues with addiction. He talked about he didn't really use before he was in WWE, to a dangerous means. And he claims that, quote, he walked into a company with a bunch of people that were taking tons of pills and drinking tons of alcohol on a nightly basis. So if this is to be taken as true, which I don't see why it wouldn't be, there was already a culture specifically in early 90s WWE that kind of, which we've talked about why it would be, but there was a culture in this company already that kind of it was there already for sure.
Yeah, and think about, being in his position where you're walking into that locker room being the youngest and the smallest. You're going to probably try and not only, like I said, deal with pain in certain ways, but somebody like him probably felt like he had to prove himself and to a group like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, it was pretty quick for him to eventually get on the train, and he was claiming that they did drug test you after the steroid thing. They started their wellness policy, I believe, or at least they didn't. I don't know if they called it that, but for anyone that's not listening, why don't you tell the wrestlers about WWE's wellness policy?
It's basically their drug testing program, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Do you know what the rules are to it and how that works?
Nothing to do with IcoPro, right? But
no, nothing to do with IcoPro or Renutrient.
Well, basically, they probably have some kind of routine or systematic way that they drug test people, and there are certain things that they can and can't use, just like any other kind of sport, and there's a list of banned items, and if you fail your test for, the first time, you get X amount of days suspension, and second time, larger, third
60
time,
days.
et cetera.
Third time is it release.
Right, and I think part of it also is that allegedly that you can get help through them as well. That's why they call it wellness, because I guess they want you to be well. This is my
kind of a
understanding
buzzword. It's kind of a buzzword for drug addiction and wellness, quote unquote.
Right.
And to be what I found out was that in the 90s they didn't have what they called a wellness policy. They just drug tested sometimes.
But I think they call it wellness for more of. I'm sure it offers more than it did I'm sure.
In 2006, they changed it to the wellness policy with Eddie Guerrero's death.
Right. So I think there is an aspect of it that it's for more of a political correctness of the term, and they probably did add elements of rehabilitation and not only just pop you and send you home, but also try and put you in a position to get help if you are willing to take it.
This is one of the better.
Aren't they allegedly paying for John Moxley's rehab right now? Did I hear that correctly somewhere?
Well, and that's what I was going to get to. So this is one of the better things that WWE has done. WWE, I have it written down here, so let me find this so I can read it here. In 2007, they started with the program. They will pay all expenses for former performers who want and need drug rehab.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's good stuff. But was it done? I guess this is a whole other topic. Did they do this because they felt bad for the things that they didn't do in the past?
Probably a little of both. It's a public move. It's a public move, right? It's Stephanie McMahon is the type of person who seemingly does positive things, not because necessarily they're positive, but because it makes the company look good, and they're positive. Right. She's the one who said charity is great for a brand. It's a great makes your brand look great when you do charity. So it's probably a little of both, but I also believe that Vince McMahon is a pretty strident anti-substance guy, and I think he wants his company clean, and he wants those people to probably get help, although my guess is he thinks it's a character flaw. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but so they are probably paying for Moxley, which would be cool. Do you know the person that they've spent the most money on?
Randy Orton?
No, Scott Hall.
Oh, Scott Hall, yeah. Until DDP rescued him, right?
Did DDP rescue Scott Hall, or was that Jake Roberts? Well, we can
both
of them. Okay, the accountability crib.
Yes,
got to be accountable, guys. And we'll get a little more to Scott Hall in a minute, but over six figures for Scott Hall. So 6 figures for Scott Hall, and I remember Sean Waltman saying that he had to be second place. So getting back to Shawn Waltman, he had really had some struggles on and off. He went through a lot of stuff, and one thing he says was that there were doctors. The guys would tell each other different doctors who would get them the good shit they needed, because again, if you had a prescription, you couldn't get in trouble for it if they drug tested you. So or that you just found a guy that would write it down, or shoot, they were probably even WWE doctors, maybe.
I'm not even trying to get specific with it, but in the 80s and 90s, maybe all you needed to do was get that pad from the doctor that they write their prescriptions on, and you were good to go. Yeah.
By the way, this is going to be a sidebar, but I heard a story of someone stole the prescription pad, like we're talking about, and they wrote down morphine 1 pound to go.
Oh my!
So there you go. But yeah, back in the 80s, 90s, definitely a possibility. Or you just had a friend. You know people, right? You know people. You know doctors. Hey, could I get this? Sure.
You get a doctor that's a mock, and you hook him up with some tickets, and you make him think he's your friend, and he gets you all the Vicodin you need.
Exactly. So, yeah, Sean Waltman seems to be doing better nowadays. I think he's actually doing pretty well, running a little podcast and stuff, and just...
As a matter of fact, I think he just shared that he has been medically cleared to get back in the ring.
Really?
And, I want to say the guy's not even 50 yet.
He looks about 60-something, but...
Well, he's in tremendous shape.
Tremendous, though?
Yeah, seriously, just look it up, man.
Okay, that seems... Maybe I've seen these older pictures of him. You mean like today he's in tremendous shape, or he was...
He's 49, yeah. No, he's in good shape, like, right now.
Oh, no way. Is this really a real picture?
No, yeah, seriously. He's 49 years old.
When did he take this picture, bro? He looks like fucking he looks like Tommaso Ciampa, bro.
Yeah. So if Chris Jericho can go out there and, do a few matches, there ain't no reason why he can't, right?
Yeah, all things considered, if he's having pain issues, who knows? But wow.
I'm just saying, like, yeah, he's obviously that's a good sign that he's not only, gotten those addictions under control, but he's in total control of his health and all that. So, and his wellness.
Well,
and he's probably
we love that for
eating
him.
really well and all that stuff. So good for him.
Good for him, man. I'm looking at that picture now. He looks real happy too.
Yeah, and he's got that dog he takes care of and all that stuff. And
he looks good with the haircut too, and the short cropped hair. Anyways, this isn't a wrestling and looks podcast, but dude looks good. So that's all.
This is a nice story of someone that's come out the other end.
Nice story. So good for Sean Waltman. Let's talk about Jake the Snake.
Right.
Do you remember Dark Side of the Ring?
Not only do I remember Dark Side of the Ring, but yes, and I the first time that you really kind of saw his issues really acknowledged is Beyond the Mat.
Beyond the Mat. That's what I meant. I'm sorry, I got it mixed up.
Okay.
Beyond the Mat was the first time that I saw. I must have watched it in 2002, and I was like, whoa, this dude fell off hard.
Yeah, he was kind of the, probably the toughest segments to watch.
It was was it his daughter?
Movie. Yeah, with his daughter and the really strained relationship he had with her. And I know he has many other kids. Meeting her in the hotel and her wanting to bring a friend and, him just like referring to himself as like a baby bird. And just talking about how he would, deal with the towns and how he wasn't a good husband and all that stuff. And just sad.
Very
and then,
sad.
Of course, I'm sure you have it written down as the resurrection of Jake the Snake, and then you can kind of see that we talked about the family history leading to stuff like that, and you can see that he had a father that
Did you watch that?
I did, yeah, and that was very, very disturbing.
The resurrection, though? How did you feel about that? Was that disturbing?
I saw it. It's been a few years, so I don't remember the details, but I mean... yes, it was, but the fact that he it had a happy ending, for the most part, and DDP coming, it kind of redeemed it and made it, a good show, but a good, satisfying ending, I guess.
Well, and it's a story that's still going on today.
Yeah, he's had his struggles back and forth, but, as long as you, get up one more time than you fall, right?
I mean... they say with addiction, something along those lines. Although they always say the next time could be your last. So don't go back. But
right, you're never cured.
Yeah. Oh, it's constant struggle. That's for sure. I'm telling you that. Like as an addict, I'm not saying I think about going and doing Robitussin every day, I was addicted to DXM Robitussin, but it's still sometimes you'll be in the Walgreens and there's a voice in your head that's like, hey, why don't you try some? And it's like, you're kind of You got to be careful because that can always be there. So in '97, Roberts decided actually that he was going to do like backstage at WWE. Did you know that in '97 that was kind of what
I do remember some hearing about how he was on the creative team for a minute or something like that.
And that's kind of what. He relapsed hard after that because he wasn't wrestling anymore, according to him. Drug addicts will always look for reasons to relapse. I know that. Like, we'll be like, oh, well, I'm not wrestling anymore, so I'm going to relapse, But obviously some stress.
He loses that, the rush he'd get from wrestling, and he looks for it in other ways, right?
Yeah, so that was a bad relapse that lasted a while. Have you seen Heroes of Wrestling from 1999?
I've heard about it. I think I've either heard about it, maybe I've seen some clips for it or something to that effect.
Generally, I think considered maybe the worst wrestling show of all time. And not that we're getting into judging people like for their addiction, their quality, because this isn't really the show. There was a lot more issues than Jake Roberts on the show. I mean, there was some weird shit on there, man. Abdullah the Butcher versus One Man Gang that ended in a double countout. Jimmy Snuka versus Bob. Anyways, and this was in '99, so these guys were all like way old then. But it was supposed to be Jake Roberts versus. It was a singles match, and Roberts was his promo was just like. He was just blasted during the promo. He could barely understand what he's saying. He started masturbating his snake as if it were his dick. And eventually Yokozuna and Jim Neidhart had to come out and and this is 99. Yokozuna in 99, also not the best wrestler then. So they came out and tried to turn it into a tag match. So that was like one of those moments, where his addiction was made very public to everyone. So, little bit, I'm not gonna say you go watch it for a laugh or anything, but it's interesting, man.
I think I don't know if it might have been incorporated in Resurrection or something like that, but I think I've seen some clips of it somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it might have been in Resurrection or something.
So, also kind of a success story here, right? He's been, you know what, dude? I was there on his AEW debut. I watched it live. Okay. Big guy.
Was that in?
Big guy. He's actually big.
Oh yeah, he's like 6'5", yeah.
I still remember he said something. Along the lines of like the only people you turn your back on is like cowards and something, and then he just turned his back and walked off, and the whole crowd was like, "Oh." But thing with Jake though is sadly, you can't do that, keep that up for so long and expect to get out scot-free. And he's had numerous health issues over the years, and it's sad. It's sad, man. And that right now he's dealing with stuff. He had to do some GoFundMes for some health issues, and he's been off AEW for a long time now.
I think he had recently some cancer too.
He did have an interesting type of cancer I had not heard about. I believe there's a bunch of stuff.
But I think he's also, which I think is very important too. It seems like he does have a good support system with him now.
Yeah, I think
that's probably helping him.
And I didn't put him on here, but we gotta say, like, it's what the hell was that? Are you banging the drums again?
Oh, sorry, I was moving the microphone.
Okay,
trying to kick back here.
I mean, should we mention DDP and all this and what he's done for wrestling and for these guys?
Well, I mean, if we're going to talk about Jake the Snake and
Scott
Hall, then we would have to mention him as being someone that's helped him turn it around. Absolutely, because we talk about guys that end up recovering. I know we mentioned Sean Waltman. I'm sure he must have had some people in his life help him too. But, the common denominator we're going to find in these guys that make it out are probably strong support systems, and
that's crucial.
Nothing stronger than the accountability crib, as you mentioned, and the good old DDP yoga.
You should start calling your place the accountability crib to your kids and put a sign up on the wall when they walk in. Maybe it'll keep them from getting in trouble in school. This is the accountability crib, kiddos.
I do have the DDP yoga disc, and I've
done it
for stretches of
It's
time.
good, bro. It's actually good.
It is.
It's hard, bro. The third one, the first two aren't bad, but the third one starts getting really difficult. Like you have to do these push-ups
every morning. It's just getting into the routine again. Well, anyway, enough about
No,
that.
no, it's okay. I, dude, if anyone thinks it's a joke, like go check it out. The third one, it starts getting quite difficult, but I love his thing where he's like, and explode, and you like push your hands back. You know what I mean? That's fun.
Diamond cutter. He definitely works the diamond cutter.
The diamond cutter, and then explode. So, thank you, DDP, for helping out these couple guys.
Dynamic resistance. That's what it's all about.
Make it like your muscle is going through air, and like it's like my heart rate is jacked.
So, I want to talk about another Shawn Michaels. Now, I don't have anything written down here, but I know Shawn Michaels is someone. And guess what, dude? The weird thing is I found it in storage. So Shawn Michaels went through it as well. What do you know? Because I didn't look up or anything or write it down. I know that he wrestled matches drunk.
I haven't really heard that with him. I know I'm not surprised that he's had struggles with, substances, and he had the back injury that he dealt with after the Royal Rumble, and I know that in WrestleMania 14, when he dropped the title to Austin, he was not in a good way, and it was 4 years before he found himself, actually wrestling again. And I think he was probably, dealing with a lot, not only the injuries, but the substance abuse and stuff like that. I don't know what in particular. I don't know if he had to go to rehab or anything, but, obviously hopefully, I think he's on the other end of it now.
Well, he did.
One of the few guys left.
He did say that he wrestled drunk, but the way he said it was like really cocky. He said, I was so naturally gifted, I could do that stuff blindfolded and standing on one leg. I was put on this earth at that time in my life to do that. There's nothing more comfortable than being a pro wrestler for me. So, some stuff there. But, obviously not everyone falls off the deep end and gets multiple DUIs and all that stuff. But you know what? It's pointless trying to compare drug addicts. Oh, this guy's worse than the other. Look, man, if you go through it, you go through it.
Yeah. And, I don't really think that you can categorize it especially, you can't judge it like that,
Yeah, definitely. Oh, so Marty Michaels has said he, quote, did a lot of drugs, and Jannetty said they were on the road 300 days a year, and they partied at 290 of them. So he said it would have wrecked his parents. So another name, which it seems like in the 90s you just name everyone in the company almost. But Shawn Michaels. How about Kurt Angle?
Yeah, if you ever just listen to him reflect about some of the stuff he had to do, I mean, we're talking about a guy who, I don't think he was doing it this time, but, won a gold medal with, a broken freaking neck, and had numerous serious, spinal neck injuries that he was dealing with. Dude reached for a bottle and mixed it with stuff and led to a lot of DUIs and stuff like that.
4 DUIs in 5 years.
There you go.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And Kurt Angle, it's a very similar to the situation you brought up earlier with the hernia surgery. It was after a neck surgery in 2003, right? So that's when he got it, and his doctor just kept re-upping him, and he said that he was taking 65 pills a day.
Yeah, I remember actually, I don't know if you have him on your list, Wilkes the Patriot, who recently passed away. And, in that era, the Attitude Era, when he had that little run in 97, which I'm trying to catch up on and watch 97 again. He was taking, I remember hearing him on the Stone Cold podcast a few, years ago.
I think I listened to that one too.
Yeah, and he was taking 90 pills a day or something ridiculous. I could be wrong, but taking a lot of pills a day. And if you ever saw him in 97 when he had a little program with Bret Hart, and he had a pretty good 97 in WWE, he looked tremendous. And always had a great physique. And just knowing that you see that guy walk out and look completely healthy and tremendous, but look what he's going through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not even know all that stuff he's going through. But he was another guy that was, taking as much pills as he possibly could.
Function. Just to function. Doesn't even help for the pain anymore at that point,
Right, it's just a function.
So, another great story here that Kurt Angle has been sober since 2013. So, it would have all been good except for the fact that he was beaten by Baron Corbin on his final match.
Yeah, well...
they
let him go out with style.
You see people talk about, this was peak perk Kurt Angle. Do you hear people make memes like that and stuff, or see videos about that?
Thankfully, no.
I thought that shit is stupid. They'll show him doing some spot, right, in TNA. Now, neither you or I watched him in TNA, but, I mean,
no.
They'll show him doing a spot and be like, this was perk Kurt. And it's just like, bro, what the fuck?
Such a low. Yeah.
So, doing okay, by the way? We got a few left here. Okay, cool. We're an hour and a half in, so we're doing.
I got a 3-day weekend. I'm all right.
Why do you got a 3-day weekend?
Oh, we got to honor the great Martin Luther King.
Oh,
Jr.
Machinists don't get to honor Martin Luther King.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, I'll honor him personally, but
you get a 3-day weekend every.
You guys get a 3-day weekend every month.
Well, I guess.
Don't you get Julio Cesar Chavez Day off?
Not my basis, but the kids do.
Okay. Wait, that's a boxer. That's a boxer. I'm sorry.
Julio, you're thinking of Cesar Chavez.
Cesar Chavez.
Boycotting of the grapes.
Okay, yes. Julio Cesar. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's okay. At least you didn't say Little Caesar. Or
Little Caesar Chavez
Day,
which is a great day in Michigan, though. So Scott Hall, we already talked about him a little bit, man. This guy really, really went through it. I mean,
yeah, and they made him deal with it on screen for the most part too, which is a whole other discussion of companies making it into storylines, but no, he was a guy Hardy. Yeah, that's another one too. But Scott Hall was a guy that just correct me if I'm wrong, but almost like wheelchair ridden. For a while.
No, he was wheelchair ridden. I mean, he absolutely was. He tried to come back in 2011. Dude couldn't even get into the ring. They had to carry him into the ring. He looked like his body was locking up and shaking. So do you remember the plane ride from hell? Did you see what happened to Scott Hall in the plane ride from hell?
Remind me.
He got so drunk on the flight that when it was time to go, he couldn't wake up. And they had to put him in a wheelchair and put sunglasses on him and wheel him out as if he was asleep.
Right.
So, and then, not to mention, by the way, was one Scott Hall quote that he said was that him and Shawn Michaels would party. They would check to see if the other one was alive. And if the other one was alive, they'd be like, here, take this. Pretty crazy shit, man.
What would this be?
Half of a pill, whatever pill.
All right.
Maybe some benzos, maybe some Xanax, something, whatever it was. Now, about his story with the Anabuse and the NWO angle with the beer and all that stuff?
Yeah, and I guess at the time he was taking...
Anabuse.
Anabuse, and they were basically putting him around it, right?
Yeah, they were putting him around the beer, bro. I think he got sick.
Right.
How fucked up is that, man? How insensitive.
It's pretty bad. Yeah.
So,
I mean, can't you be more creative than that? But I mean, I don't know what was behind that, but I know they'll say, well, he was willing to do it. It's like, can't you think of something a little more original or something that...
Or you could just think of not doing that, you know? Like, just not that. Like, the dude's on abuse. He's already struggled with addiction, and you're like, hey, we're going to do a whole thing with beer involved in you. Fuck you.
You know what it reminds me of? I know this is a weird kind of comparison, but did you ever watch The Office?
Not really.
Okay. Well, there's this, you know who Andy is? The character Andy?
Yeah, balding kind of guy?
No. He is, he was in The Hangover.
Oh, yeah. He plays like ukulele and sings and stuff.
Right.
Shields?
So
Ed Shields or Ed Helms? Ed Helms.
So his character, you know, his ex-girlfriend is working for the paper company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she breaks up with him and starts dating another guy that works there. This is the last season. And Andy's idea of revenge is to hire both of their exes to start working for the company.
Oh, jeez.
And, you know, they're walking in and like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And you could, so
just
that's
put him in a
his
bad
idea
situation.
That's his idea of getting revenge, you know. So it
geez.
just kind of reminds me of that.
I could see it, man. Now, I will say Ed Helms didn't come till later in the series. That's kind of why I didn't.
Season 2. So
that's it? Season 2?
Yeah. 2 or 3.
Man,
yeah.
I honestly, I watched The Office, like, it was like, I watched it, like, the first episode online, weirdly enough, like, when, a little bit before, like, YouTube and stuff, you know, but, like, I thought it was hilarious, but then after that, really didn't like the love story going on there, but that's a whole different, next, we'll do wrestling and The Office.
And I'll be honest, quickly, and just say how I kind of got into The Office, and it's been actually probably a little while since I ran through it again. It's almost time again, but
it's almost time again.
Yeah, you know, about every once a year or once every 2 years, I'll rewatch it again.
I guess I rewatched some animes.
The one I got into it when I was on paternity leave for my first son in 2011, so that was a good 5-6 years into the show. I never watched it, and we just ran
what a
through
great
it
dad.
when, you know, when I was home with my wife when we just had our son for a few weeks, and we were watching The Office like for the first time on Netflix, and that was when I was first introduced to it. So there you go.
Well, the British one's better. We can agree on that. So let's move on to another character who's person who's had his struggles, and he's going through them right now, and that is Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, I mean, another guy that, look what he puts his body through, right? You know, if we're talking about, you know, jackass style stuff,
just crazy.
Jeff Hardy's right there.
Crazy bumps, crazy historical bumps, just, you know, swantons off the freaking lighting rigs.
And also, you know, one of those guys that's what, you know, I guess you can, he journeys into the artistic realm. And I know he's dabbled with music and stuff like that, and just like kind of, I hate to like put it into that corner, but he also has a few other hobbies and interests.
You comparing him to like RVD a little bit?
No.
Okay. I thought you meant like, no. Oh, he's more on the psychedelic kind of...
Yeah, but I think he has other hobbies and interests that have a stereotype of drug use.
Yeah.
Whether it's a musician or like kind of, you know, an artist type of thing.
Well,
and then putting his body through all that stuff.
And he's from the South, so there's going to be that as well. I guess it was like kind of going back in time here from now to back in the day. Recently, Jeff Hardy, of course, had an issue and he was released from WWE. He just left during the match. And, we don't know where he's going to end up. That's not what this episode is about. But
No.
that comes after a long struggle and history of issues and use. Do you remember or did you ever watch Victory Road 2011 Sting versus Jeff Hardy? Did you see that debacle?
Not. I have heard about it and probably seen clips of it, but I've heard Eric Bischoff probably tell the story about it too as well.
Yeah.
Obviously that was a moment where he was inebriated and could just flat out had no business being out there in that condition.
Absolutely. He had his home raided, and they actually found him with controlled substances, and he was trafficking controlled substances before that. And he did 10 days in jail for that. Multiple DUIs. Actually, in 2007, left WWE after multiple wellness policy issues. And before that, he was actually fired from WWE in 2003 or 2004. So not 2007, I'm sorry. 2003 or 2004. And it's the same issue, the same thing that kind of happened recently. No shows, poor performance. And, it just shows what this stuff can do to your body and your mind, man.
Yeah, I mean, and we're, I guess hopefully he's on the mend with whatever was going on and what happened recently. But, he's one of those guys that just really hasn't been able to, he just goes in and out and hasn't been able to consistently, shake it, I guess.
And I think that you and I would love to see Jeff Hardy finish out his career on a high note. I no doubt about that.
Well, no pun intended, but...
yeah, no pun intended. A low note.
We would like a happy ending for him. And, I think from seeing him perform in WWE the last, couple years, still looks like he can perform.
Very popular, too. Very popular. Super
very
over.
Popular.
It's always very babyface, man. Like really a super babyface kind of character with his edgy.
Yeah, the face paint's been good, and he's still got the look and everything. He's aged pretty well, and to be honest with you, he's only in his early 40s. I think he's a few years younger than Matt, right?
Dunno. Looks a little younger.
I think he cleans himself up and. He could probably get another 3 or 4 years if he wanted to.
Well, I want to see something good.
44 years old. And Matt is 47.
And how old is Tatsumi Fujinami?
And to think about these guys, they were in WWE in the early Raw days.
Yeah.
And they're not even 50 yet. That's insane.
Well, but they started on Raw when they were like 16, so it's like the Stardom girls. It's like they've been wrestling for 18 years. It's like, how? They're only 25.
Right?
So, and...
Yeah, because they've been training since they were been backyard wrestling in Cameron since they were like 5 years old, probably.
By the way, Tatsumi Fujinami... who
68 years old.
68, who we recently saw wrestle. Anyways,
well, that's if you want to call it that.
I didn't even watch that, to be honest.
I think he dragon screwed, leg whipped everybody. They just lined up for it.
Then left.
Good for him.
So I just finished reading William Regal's book. Did I tell you that? I finished the whole book.
No.
Yeah, I did. I started reading it years ago. Never finished it, though. It is a WWE book, which means that it's a WWE book. What else is there to say, man? Like, it's, it's co-written, ghost-written, all that stuff. It's bad, hey, not great writing.
Mick Foley's books
Mick Foley's book was written by Mick Foley, bro.
Yeah, he wrote it on basically probably a legal pad.
Yeah, but there's a big difference there.
The Rock's first one was really good, too.
Chris Jericho's books are pretty good.
I haven't read those.
Bryan Danielson's book I heard was not that great. Mox's book was better because it was more him. But Regal's book, Stone Cold's book, they're just like, they're just. I'll say the William
Brett's is pretty good.
Well, Brett wrote his own book in WWE. And I heard there was a lot of controversy with that one, too. Like, he claimed some things that other people... just wrestling stuff. But William Regal's book, I thought it was pretty good. It's a WWE book, which means it's not well-written and stuff. But you look at this guy's struggle, and it's pretty fascinating. So he actually started kind of using, mid-WCW to the end of his WCW career. And he actually wasn't able to quite get a hold in WWE because everyone knew he was addicted to drugs. So, he got into WWE and they just took a look at him. They're like, dude, like, we can't put you on TV. But they had a lot of trust and hope in him, man. They told him, go get your shit together and you can be on WWE TV, So...
And, when you think about when he debuted in, like, 98 with them... And he was doing that whole man's man thing.
Yeah.
He was like 29 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, man. You know what I just saw? I just saw a video of Crime Time and him. Crime Time is running around in circle going, money, money, oh yeah. And then William Regal starts dancing with them. And who shows up but, damn!
Ron Simmons.
Yeah, exactly. So William Regal had a very unique addiction. Now, he was a poly-drug user. In case you guys don't know what that means, it pretty much means you'll take whatever someone gives you. A lot of people get addicted. Oh, I'm addicted to coke. Poly-drug, that's kind of what I was like. You're addicted to drugs, and that's pretty much it. And it was really ripping his family and him apart. He looked out of shape. He gained a lot of weight, but he specifically got addicted to GHB. Have you ever heard of that?
No, tell me.
So GHB, I believe it's kind of a depressant. It's kind of a date rape drug.
GHB. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Like roofie.
Kind of like roofie. That along with Rohypnol and stuff. But GHB, gamma hydroxybutyric acid, let's see. It is a naturally occurring transmitter, but it releases GABA, right? So GABA is like what alcohol releases or what benzos release or even barbiturates. So it calms you down. It makes you... And he actually kind of got hooked on it because they were selling it back then as a supplement legally. So it was called Renutrient. And he was like getting boxes of bottles, you know what I mean? And he talks in the book about he would just sit in his room for weeks on end thinking that he was having the most genius ideas in the world and just do nothing. What
was this substance called?
Renutrient. GHB was the drug. Renutrient was the actual drink brand name. So, he's been sober for a long time, and you know what changed it for him?
What's that?
He just realized he didn't want it anymore, man. Honestly. So, and
he just kind of cold turkeyed it?
Yeah, he just said fuck it. He couldn't have it because he saw losing his wife, his kids, right. He wasn't sure if his wife loved him anymore. And he changed, and I mean, so much for the better, right? Look at his WWE career. I mean, all this great stuff came out of this guy's ability to just say, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
So, and I know you and I weren't watching a ton, but I'm sure you've seen like old videos and promos of him, and he seemed like a really funny guy.
Oh, I remember the stuff with Tajiri when I was still watching. It was awesome.
Yeah. So, a few more names here, and then we'll wrap it up. We're going to talk a little bit about some quick hits here. We go back into early WCW, and you have to talk about Brian Pillman. Known in backstage for popping painkillers like candy, quote unquote, and used cocaine and drinking. And it was the life-changing car accident that really made his addiction worse.
Right.
So the weird thing, though, is Pillman didn't necessarily die from his drug use. Did you know that or realize that?
He had some kind of heart condition, if I remember correctly, right?
He had a heart condition.
Some kind of genetic heart condition.
Yeah, that they noticed in him when he was like a baby.
And I'm sure his use of substances didn't
help
it.
Didn't help. And that's the same thing with Eddie Guerrero, right? Sober for 4 years, but the damage was done.
Yeah, I was actually just talking to this about with my wife the other day, especially, people our parents' age that lived in the 70s and in the 80s, 60s, that did a lot of drugs as convention, was kind of like what you did. And I think even though a lot of people, the baby boomer age that were born in the 50s, 60s, although they've stopped doing that stuff for years, a lot of them are having some health issues and stuff from residual effects of, doing so many of those recreational drugs that were a part of the pop culture in the 60s or 70s. And I think
I think addictive drug use is worse now than it was back then.
Well, what I'm saying, though, like people that were doing cocaine in high school and speed and whatever, acid or whatever, and doing all kinds of stuff like that in the 60s and 70s and other kinds of drugs, are starting to feel the effects now later in life because they were really the first generation that was using recreational drugs like that. So we really don't know what happens
even little
down the
like
road. That's why you have people in their late 50s with heart failure and congestive heart failure, and that's why you have your parents might, you know what I mean? Like, I think the use of those drugs in the 70s and 80s in that era are now affecting the people, the baby boomers now.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure about the correlation. I do agree with you, but, I'd be interested to see data on that. Obviously, we know that the biggest addiction of all that we are not mentioning because it's not the same type of addiction is nicotine and cigarettes, which has killed a lot of people.
Yeah,
and,
the whole idea is you could do these drugs for a long period of years, but like you said, the damage could already be done down the road.
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, it's almost like, every time you do cocaine, you're taking a few hours off your life, if not days.
Right.
I mean, who knows what's happened in my body, man? I have bodily issues like I've had arm pain that I dealt with for multiple years before I fixed that. I've had, I sometimes question about, has my memory changed? Am I less intelligent and things such as that? Because, I used so much, man. My blood pressure was skyrocketing for years. That causes damage, dude. Sometimes irreversible. Yeah. So, and that's probably what happened to Eddie. He went through his own stuff and got sober and then died 4 years later. So
yeah. I mean, like you said, that whatever you can recover, but not fully.
Not fully, and that's not even talking to them about the mental either. Which
right.
So besides those guys, it's really the list is endless. But the point is not the wrestlers. That's not the point. The point is that what can we do and stuff, and that's either try to get help or try to help somebody. If you know someone going through this, man, it's hard sometimes because it seems like they care more about the drugs than they do about anything else. Yeah. But sometimes people are going to come to their own realization, and sometimes they got to go through a lot of pain to realize that. And
it's just understanding that somebody going through that it's a sickness. It's not,
Again, they're not making that like they're not like I'm going to be an addict. Oh no, they are literally it's like a sickness, man, and their ability to choose, their ability to make choices is severely screwed up.
And it would just be if you had a friend that had a headache, you'd offer him some Tylenol. If you had a friend that had a cough, you'd give him a cough drop. It's first of all just going in with the mindset of they're dealing with a sickness, a disease, and kind of trying to remove that level of judgment.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this and you feel like you might have issues, there's so many resources. And, you're always welcome to DM me or hit me up personally. I've been through it before. And there's so many free resources, too. There's AA. I'm not religious. I'm an atheist, but I found AA to be helpful. There's anonymous groups for all sorts of drug use. And there's, in America at least, there's a lot of community help. There's sober living and things like that, because
there's somebody, whether it's a coworker or an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a parent, a sibling. There's somebody in your life that is willing to help you if you just reach out.
Absolutely, there is. And, there are resources. And it's the first thing is going to be talking about it with people and admitting that there's an issue there. That is like the huge first step. That's like there's a staircase above you, and the first step is like 20 feet tall. If you can take that first step, then you can start really climbing, because, you every time you use, man, it could be your last time. And, sadly, there were some wrestlers or wrestling adjacent people like Miss Elizabeth, right? Or like Bam Bam Bigelow, that were never able to make that first step eventually, or not able to actually. We weren't able to because they didn't live to be able to. So,
right, yeah.
So yeah, a little bit of a sombering episode, but it's not all about fun and games here. I think we've touched on
Usually it will be, though.
Usually it will be, but I think we've touched on an important topic that I've wanted to talk about.
Right.
We definitely have a lot of hope for Moxley. We want to see him back.
Yeah, he's scheduled February 23rd with a GCW match, and I would imagine that he is hopefully going to show up on AEW soon, and I still want to see him in Tanahashi, but
don't we all?
Mox took a big first step with his, and he saw he needed the help, and he's got a young kid and a wife, and he just moved
to a different city too.
Are they in Vegas still?
No, they moved to Cleveland.
Oh, Cleveland?
Yeah.
Not Cincinnati, where he's from?
Oh, Cincinnati, sorry.
Okay, that makes sense.
Totally different city.
Right.
Yeah, they moved to Cincinnati, so...
he's closer to probably
closer to Canada.
Familiarity. Not really.
Well, yeah, it's closer to Canada because his wife is from there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So, that first step, man, it's worth so much more than your spot in the card and all that stuff. Your health, your life, your family, it's worth more than anything. So, And you know
what? He's a guy that I guess we don't know for sure, but this is a guy that's, at the top of his profession, if not the top 1% to 2%.
One of the top wrestlers in the world.
And I know there's a lot of people that are dealing with these issues that aren't in the position he was in professionally, that probably need, a lot more help. But it also makes what he did very brave, because he could have probably hid this for years and not had to lose his spot, so to say, or maybe eventually he would have, but for him to go out at probably one of the biggest peaks of his career and acknowledge this and get this taken care of deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah. So, there's so many more wrestlers: Lex Luger, Ted DiBiase, even Rey Mysterio, Dustin Rhodes, Randy Orton, Yokozuna, who dealt with eating addiction, right. RVD, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And really, there's just a history there, man. But, hopefully with time, Moxley will set a good example for sure, right? Like, hopefully other wrestlers can see that and be like, you know what? If he could do it, I can do it.
Let's hope that the industry adjusts to it as well, and maybe is a little less demanding out of these guys. The pandemic has, all but kind of, it for a while, reduced house shows and stuff like that, and put these guys at a, flying 5 days a week, home Tuesday, Wednesday kind of schedule that WWE had was completely unnecessary and totally, aided and abetting these type of,
Oh, for sure. House shows every night.
Yeah, so hopefully, I know AEW doesn't necessarily, you work 6-7 days a month and stuff like that. So
if that,
I think
4 days a month if you're on TV quite a bit. I mean, if you're on TV every day, I guess it'd be 4 or 5. So yeah, so you're right, 6 or 7. And in Japan, you go on a long tour, then you get a long break. Get on a long tour, get a couple weeks off.
And they're not doing the strenuous travel that you would in the United States. They're
you don't think so, bro? Because they bus from all over that place. It'd be like busing all over California all the time.
Yeah, but when you compare it to cross country travel, I think that's a little bit different.
Well, definitely having to go on airplanes and changing time zones all the time. Yeah. Big difference there.
Yeah, you don't have to do that in Japan.
Not to mention going to other countries.
Exactly. And
Yokozuna died in England.
Right. So. Probably a few other wrestlers have died overseas too. But yeah, particularly with Yokozuna. And I think a lot of these companies right now, Yokozuna wouldn't have been working in that condition.
No. Yokozuna would have been on A&E.
Sent home. He would have been in rehab.
He would have been on A&E, My 600-Pound Life. That's how much he weighed, dude.
Yeah.
Speaking of things dying overseas, did you hear that they're doing an elimination chamber in Saudi Arabia? Did you hear that?
When?
That's going to be their next. That's going to be the single pay-per-view in between
WrestleMania
and Rumble. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. Probably that last Saudi show they did
was pretty good, huh?
It was probably one of their best pay-per-views of the year.
It was actually pretty good. Elimination Chamber is always kind of a cool match. I kind of wish it had more. Yeah, I'm like, how are they going to transport that? I guess they have a jumbo jet. They'll probably fill the Elimination Chamber into piece by piece. But
since I got back in from my laps, 2 of the quote unquote concepts that I've enjoyed in terms of something different from what I watched in the Attitude Era and everything in the early zeros was the money in the bank and the Elimination Chamber. I thought those were cool.
Yeah, definitely. Elimination.
Could you imagine Stone Cold Steve Austin in '98 walking around with the money in the bank? How freaking crazy that would be!
Oh, that would have been awesome, dude. That would have been awesome. Or the Undertaker about to go into the Elimination Chamber and then fire shoots up and burns his entire body.
Has the money in the bank, it's Shawn Michaels, with the money in the bank with DX. I mean, Triple H with it.
And I'm thinking Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys in the Elimination Chamber.
Oh, well, yeah, if they had a tag team one, sure.
No, I'm talking all 4 of them against each other.
Oh, sure.
And add a Dudley in there.
I don't know if it'll be better than that match they had in WrestleMania
17?
One of those. It's 17 or 18.
Yeah, that ladder match.
So good.
So you talk about plane crash matches. That was like a car crash match for sure, dude.
I mean, dude, I think everything we see from that point on in terms of ladder matches, and just honestly, we were talking about Kenta and Tanahashi earlier.
Who knew we would talk about Kenta and Tanahashi in relations to the Hardy Brothers?
Well, I'm just saying a lot of elements and that match were all birthed by that match.
You know what, Justin? You're a good co-host partner. I will spear you off of a hanging whatever anytime, all right, brother?
Aw, appreciate it.
And I'll do that for any of the fans as well. So thank you guys for listening to this episode. I appreciate it. You want to tell the fans anything, Justin?
No, just, stay away from the bad stuff, and if you're on it, do the brave thing and get some help, whether it's DMing John or any of our social media, or telling a friend or a coworker or just somebody that you think you can trust,
or hitting a meeting too, an AA meeting.
I think you're a lot closer to help than you think.
You are, for sure. There's people in every city, man. There's people, everyone's going, like, every city, there's people. No one is immune from this type of thing, and everyone knows somebody that's gone through it or is going through it. So, you're always one choice away from getting help. So, well, in that case, man, I think we had a good episode here. I look forward to talking to you next week or the week after. We'll maybe preview the Rumble. Maybe next week. We'll figure that out. And then we still got a special series we want to do for you guys, too. About, I won't spoil it for them, but...
we got some stuff in the works that we're researching in the background.
Yes, because, we just want to know everything about it. So, all right, Justin, well... I will talk to you later, brother, and I will talk to everyone later as well. See you guys.
See ya.